Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sierra Slasher channel and welcome to a new video. Happy 2025 everyone. I kind of just hibernated throughout the winter and even though it's raining and cold out, I'm trying to channel some warmer days and some good energy, and we're doing a spring book haul today. My reading pace has slowed down a lot as of the last couple of years. I am at the point where I am making peace with that and just, allowing myself to read as I want to and what I want to. Lately, I've actually found myself reading a lot more nonfiction, more like environmental books, because that's kind of what I do as a job. I work in like environmental science and conservation. So that's kind of where my focus has been lately, and so those kind of things I haven't been sharing on the channel. However, with that being said, I found myself finding a little bit of an itch to want to reconnect and jump back into some young adult fantasy books because it's been a while since I have read something in the genre. So I decided yesterday to drive myself to Barnes & Noble and just go peruse. And while not all of these books are brand new, published this year, I do have 4 exciting books to show and talk to you all about. I'm gonna try to make this quick because I am feeling very tired and the light is waning. So let's talk about the 4 books that I picked up, shall we? I'm gonna share these books in the order in which I picked them up at Barnes & Noble. So the first thing that caught my eye when I was browsing the young adult section is The Wild Huntress. This is by Emily Lloyd Jones, and honestly, the first thing that caught me was that I love the background. I love the book art. As I have done in previous hauls, I will just put a screenshot of the synopsis here so you can read it and see how you feel about it. When I read it, the books that came to mind that it reminded me of was like Wilder Girls or Their Grace Year or even Among the Beasts and Briars. Those kind of books where it's set out in the wilderness, in the forest. There's a hunt, there are mythical creatures or monsters happening. There's a contest, all kinds of things like that. Also, one of the characters, I believe there's 4 main characters in this story, and one of the characters is able to manipulate plant life, and I was like, I'm sold. Botanist heart sold. I just want to know what that character can do and figure out how I can replicate it in real life. So this is The Wild Huntress. So the next book that I came across actually was a more recent publishing of this year, so I feel like I'm back in it. I'm back. This is Our Infinite Fates. This is by Laura Steven. First of all, before I even get into it, can we talk about how gorgeous this cover is? Like, look at that, the way that it kind of shimmers depending on how you're looking at it. And also, I didn't realize it wasn't even part of the appeal until after I got in the car, but the edges are gold. That's freaking sick. This book is really well designed. Okay, so obviously the cover art is part of the appeal. That's what caught my eye. But the subtext also really caught my eye. In between the lines, it says, they've loved each other in 1,000 lifetimes. They've killed each other in every one. And I said, oh, okay, a little like enemies to lovers, but then it traverses time, and so I immediately started thinking of like Every Day by David Levithan, which if you're an OG, you know that that is one of my favorite book series of all time. So I immediately was like, okay, I'm sold. Let me see what's going on here. Pause to read the synopsis of the book, but essentially it seems like there are 2 main characters. There is Evelyn and who is the other person? Arden. Evelyn and Arden are 2 characters that have followed each other throughout different lifetimes throughout history, and every single lifetime Arden kills Evelyn before her 18th birthday, and she can remember all of her different lifetimes too and all of their different past interactions. So I was immediately like, oh, the whole concept of being able to switch bodies and live different lives but maintain your consciousness, I love things like that. It really reminds me of Every Day. So I am so excited to see what the ruse of this book is, what's the motivating plot factor. It seems like Evelyn finally lands into a life that she is excited about and wants to stay alive and live in, and obviously that can't be based on what's going on with the plot, so we'll see what happens. I noticed that some of my mutuals on Goodreads read and highly rated this book, so I am very excited to read it and be up to date on what's going on, so we'll see how I feel about Our Infinite Fates. Okay, this next one, as a Black reader, it just instantly caught my eye because Black girl on the cover, hello. This book is called The Black Kids, and essentially it is a retelling or kind of like a telling of the Rodney King riots in 1992 in Los Angeles from the perspective of like Black adolescent teenagers in the area during that time. I grew up with stories about the Rodney King riots. If you're familiar, you can go on and Google and read what happened, but basically an instance of police brutality on a Black man named Rodney King. It sparked hell across LA and a bunch of riots and looting and all those things, but I grew up with stories about that instance. I'm just excited to read another young adult book that kind of examines racism against Black people in America. I've loved all of the very, you know, popular and well-known young adult books that address racism in the space. Obviously, like The Hate U Give, one of the good ones, Slay, most recently, is a book that I read, so yeah. And last but not least, the book that I picked up last at Barnes & Noble. I actually never thought that I would read another book by this author just because I didn't know that she was still publishing, and it's been a long time since I read her last book, but this is All This Time. This is by Rachel Lippincott and Mickey Daughtry. Rachel Lippincott is the author that wrote 5 Feet Apart, about the two characters that have cystic fibrosis. I remember feeling very moved by the story, even though myself, I don't have cystic fibrosis. I just remember, you know, being moved by the characters' stories and them navigating this like disease and trying to have a life outside of the hospital and pursue love, you know? So All This Time is a very similar kind of premise to 5 Feet Apart. Basically, we have two main characters, Kyle and Kimberly, and they are the perfect couple. Unfortunately, they get into a car crash and Kimberly ends up dying, and Kyle survives, but he survives with a very traumatic brain injury. And so, Kyle has to live with the guilt, you know, survivor's guilt. Why did I live and why did Kimberly not? And like try to rebuild his life from this injury. And then he meets Marley, another girl who also has a complicated past of some kind of loss that it's alluded to. And so Kyle and Marley are trying to form a life together and like navigate their own circumstances. And then the twist comes at the end that it says Kyle can't shake the feeling that he's heading towards another disastrous, you know, moment, and he's right. So we get to find out what's going on with Kyle and Marley in this book. But yeah, there you have it. Those are my spring reads for this season. Let me know if you have read any of these books. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what I should start with. I am currently reading Fourth Wing. I'm so behind the times, but I am enjoying it so far, so I will definitely be having more discussion about Fourth Wing coming on the channel. If you like this video, please do leave me a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all on the channel next time. Till then, bye guys.